pieces of property like this is exactly what the American Battlefield Trust and others, Central Virginia Battlefield Trust, are trying to save. This is an unsuspecting corner. This is a place that you would not suspect anything of significance to happen. There's streets intersecting here. There's a major business right there, just across the street. And I'm walking back to my vehicle, which is parked in a dollar store parking lot, which is only just a few feet from where that cannon's placed. So it's pretty astounding what took place here at such an unassuming place, or what happened over here at such an unassuming place, and what time and progress has done to history. The surrounding area has pretty much destroyed this battlefield. But thanks to the Central Virginia Battlefield Trust and the American Battlefield Trust, we have at least a small portion of that field that we can go to and learn about the major history that took place out here at Fredericksburg.
Born on September 7, 1838, John Pelham was the third son of Dr. Atkinson and Martha McGahee Pelham in Benton County, Alabama. He spent his childhood in local schools, often playing pranks with his 5 siblings and causing trouble for their teacher. Neighbors predicted the Pelham boys might end up in serious trouble due to their wild antics, but John began to focus on his studies in his teens, took charge of one of the family farms, and eventually applied to West Point. On March 18, 1856, he wrote to Secretary of War Jefferson Davis to accept a cadetship, and on July 1st, he reported to the military academy. Though his academic performance was average and he accumulated demerits for minor infractions, Pelham excelled in horsemanship, fencing, boxing, and forming friendships. One classmate, Adelbert Ames, noted that Pelham was the kind of man whom you felt instinctively, here is a friend. His friendships and common sense kept him away from the sectional conflicts stirred up by other cadets as reports from bloody Kansas and Harper's Ferry unsettled the nation. Pelham remained focused on his studies, sports, debate club, color guard, and religious activities, aiming to graduate in 1861 as cadets studied for 5 years at that time. However, national events and Alabama's secession created a conflict for Pelham. He wanted to graduate, believed in the Constitution, and felt a strong allegiance to his state. When Alabama seceded, he offered his services, but hesitated to leave West Point, hoping to avoid conflict. Although I am a most ultra-secessionist, I am still proud of the American flag, he wrote to his family, grappling with his decision. Ultimately, on April 17, 1861, John Pelham became one of the last Southern cadets to resign from West Point. He began his journey back to Alabama on April 22nd, traveling with his classmate and friend Tom Rosser, who would later become a Confederate cavalry commander. By May 15, 1861, Pelham received a commission as first lieutenant in the Confederate Army, with orders to report to Virginia to assist with ordnance.
If you were standing here in 1862, 1863, you'd be able to see past this cannon, past the stores behind me. It would just be clear, open farm fields all the way down as far as the eyes can see. And during the Battle of Fredericksburg, what you would have seen are long lines of bluecoats coming across this field. Well, Major Pelham, John Pelham, was with J.E.B. Stuart's artillery. And he basically told J.E.B. Stuart that he wanted to take one cannon out here, one piece of artillery, and place it on this field and try to provoke an action, which is what he did. He brought the cannon out here in this place, and he started firing down in that direction, just over my shoulder. He found one single tree out there in the middle of a big cornfield, and he targeted that tree until he hit that location. And then that way he knew exactly where his cannonballs were going to fly. Once he did that, he started doing onslaught fire down the lines of the soldiers that were out there, and he was creating havoc. The Union artillery, however, replied quickly with 12 pieces of artillery firing on this one location. Multiple times, J.E.B. Stuart told John Pelham to retire his cannon and fall back into his lines. And multiple times, he sent word back to the general, I'm okay, I've got this, I can hold my ground. And that's what he did. He fired continuously out here shifting his guns from one location to the other and moving this piece of artillery, well, not this exact one, but one like it, up and down the line to try to off balance the Union artillery that was firing over here. And essentially, his actions out here basically slowed down the United States Army for almost an hour, preventing them from taking that position behind me by force. The hill back there where General Jackson and his men were located. It proved to be one of those things that went down in history as John Pelham's bravery, but it could also be seen as really putting yourself at risk out here on a hill that's just on the other side of where those soldiers are. He got lucky that day.
This stone marker, placed in 1903 by former Confederate staff officer James Power Smith, commemorates Major John Pelham's bold stand with a single cannon against advancing Federal forces during the Battle of Fredericksburg. Originally positioned along the road facing a different direction, it was relocated to this corner lot due to development pressures. Across the intersection lies the ground where the Federal forces advanced. Enduring fire from more than 24 Union cannons, Pelham and his crew held their position for over an hour before retreating as their ammunition dwindled. The portrait of John Pelham, captured when he was 16, reflects his youth. He was just 3 months into his 24th year during the Battle of Fredericksburg. Tragically, 3 months later, he was mortally wounded at the Battle of Kelly's Ford in Virginia on March 17, 1863. His remains were returned to his home state of Alabama, where he is buried in Jacksonville City Cemetery.